Welcome back to Our Strange Meanderings. I'm on Richmond Avenue in Staten Island, New York. I'm at Asbury Cemetery. As you can see the sign behind me. You might hear some traffic. It's a very busy roadway. But why am I here? This cemetery is a historic cemetery, and buried here, not too far from where I'm standing, is Ichabod Crane. That name may resonate with you. Uh, if you know the story of the legend of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irving borrowed that name for the school teacher that is in that story. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the real life inspiration, Army Artillery Captain Ichabod Crane. Washington Irving and Ichabod Bennett Crane almost certainly encountered one another in 1814 at Sackett's Harbor, New York during the War of 1812. Details are often sparse and partly inferential. Sackett's Harbor was a crucial American military outpost on Lake Ontario during the War of 1812. At that time, Washington Irving was serving as an aide-de-camp to New York Governor Daniel D. Tompkins, who was inspecting coastal and frontier defenses, including Sackett's Harbor, known as Fort Pike. I've been to this cemetery a few times, but it's been at least a year, 2 years since I've been here. And it seems that the graves in the cemetery are still in the same state of disrepair. As you can see some of the headstones lying here ahead of me, lying and tossed about. Some are sunken in. They could be doing work here to repair and look like they're cutting down trees, cleaning it up. This place was a real mess at one time, and it's a shame. But often this is the state of cemeteries, as for budgetary reasons and the such. Um, there is a group, the Friends of Staten Island Cemeteries. I believe they're behind some of the projects of cleaning up cemeteries. And just down a little way is the grave of Ichabod Crane that I will show you shortly. In 1814, Ichabod Bennett Crane, a career U.S. Army artillery captain, was stationed at that same post, which gives strong circumstantial evidence Irving and Crane were present at the same time. Some historians argue that the two men may have met during the governor's inspections or at social gatherings. Irving was known to collect striking names for later literary use, and Irving may have noticed Crane's unusual name from the roll's conversation with officers or Crane himself. I'll show you some more of the cemetery. A lot of headstones down. Some are old. Died July 1st, 1870. Phoebe. These are certainly historic graves. Some of them, like Decker, you see ahead of me, is a name for a street and a number of the Staten Island landmarks. You see another headstone in the ground here like this. One in the background there. This is certainly a somber place. A lot of cemeteries have this certain air about it. being peaceful. Is it haunted or is it paranormal? I don't know. Uh, but I certainly think that cemeteries have that ambiance of reverence and people have gone before you and just have a certain stillness about it. These two trees have sprung around the grave. How old is this one? They were laid to rest as late as 1943. You see, there's the church, Sunrise Church, and it's a very well appropriated name as the sun is rising right over the landscape here. Memory of Matilda, wife of George Marsac, born 1847, died 1908. I like the design on certain graves, like this one. It has a certain Gothic feel to it. Anne Simpson, born May 26, 1821, died November 1st, 1894. And you can see in the background the state of things. They have a dumpster here. It looks like they've been clearing the overgrowth here. There's some down trees on top of graves. And we'll walk on over there. They have a quaint little bench over here. I guess you can sit and contemplate your mortality amongst your loved ones. There's a cluster of graves over here. They're all toppled down. This one, you can barely read. I'll check the other side out. But there's a tree growing out of it. George Sharratt. Sharratt, perhaps Sharratt's Road here on Staten Island. Who knows? A number of prominent families, Sharratt, Decker, are buried here. Also a Moravian cemetery. There's a cluster of graves over here where the headstones are broken down. It's a shame. This is how, 100 years later or so, another Sharratt here. But this is how cemeteries end up. And organizations like, the Friends of Staten Island Cemeteries and a few of them, they can only do so much, I'm sure, with budget. And perhaps the church is working on the cleanup here. But you can only do so much with so much manpower and staffing and funding. But it's a quiet little church and landscape with the cemetery here. All right, let's walking over to Mr. Crane, Captain Crane's final resting place. If you know the Irving story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the schoolmaster Ichabod Crane differs completely in profession and personality from the real life career Army Captain Ichabod Crane. There is no evidence that Crane ever knew of his literary counterpart in Irving's story. Simply, we have the name because Washington Irving potentially met this gentleman and collected his name for use in the story. But here we are, sacred to the memory of Colonel Ichabod B. Crane of the U.S. Army, who was born in Elizabethtown, New Jersey, July 18th, 1787. Died on Staten Island, October 5th, 1857. He served his country faithfully 48 years and was much beloved and respected by all who knew him. As you can see, a nice pillar with the crossed guns. People have left stones and flags and a flower ring. I don't know the story, and I will have to look it up, of Juan, an Indian boy of the Umpawa tribe, part of my pronunciation, Oregon, brave, honest, and faithful. Died on Staten Island, December 27th, 1856. I do not know how he is connected here with Colonel Crane. And here, I'm going to assume for the moment, William M. Crane died December 26, 1880, aged 46 years. A son, brother. The sun is behind me, so you're catching my shadow here. But sacred to the memory of Charlotte, widow of Colonel Ichabod Crane, U.S. Army, born May 25th, 1798. Departed this life September 25th, 1874. Blessed are those who fear the Lord and walk in his ways. So, she outlived him by nearly 20 years. And I'm going to presume she's laid to rest here as well. And that is the resting place of Ichabod Crane, the namesake of schoolmaster in the legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. Just take that in for a minute. Thank you for your service, Colonel Crane. I'll just swing around and look at some of the graves here that are in front. And you cannot tell who they belong to, because this one is toppled over and this headstone sitting against another. Is the Marsh family, 1860 to 1892, 32 years old. 1840 to 1888, 48 years old. Isaac L. Miller, born 1826, died 1868, 42 years old. Hadfields, Denkers. There's a goose down there. You might be able to see. We'll just take a walk through this side of the cemetery. The fence you see, wrought iron fence down there, and the brickway entrance were non-existent a few years ago when I was here last. That's a recent addition. So over time, they're slowly cleaning up all the overgrowth and the dead trees, but the state of the graves are atrocious. We may never know who's in these places buried in here. It's a headstone broken in half and a pillar. And I'm sure, as kids are known to do in times, as horrible as it is, topple headstones with no care. This headstone's being held up by this post, like an old fence post. I can't make it out, but if you can, leave it in the comments. I'm wondering if it's a child because it's sort of like a cradle. There's a small headstone there, but it's just so worn away I can't read it. All right. Well, it's nice to see that they've cleaned up all the dead stuff, the trees and brush, as I said before. I'll have to do some research to see if there's been any uh, registering of names and stuff. I'm sure you could find it on Find a Grave and who's buried here and who people are looking for information on. Perhaps the church has some sort of registry as well, who was interred here over time, throughout history. And that's it for now. I'll catch you in the next one.